What's up, y'all? It's Greg Boudreaux, and so I have a room in my house that we call the studio, which is it's become an irony because the only thing that makes it a studio, I guess, is that there's a piano in it. Otherwise, it's full of board games, puzzle pieces, French fries, like pretty much everything else in the world that you could think of that has nothing to do with the studio. And actually recently, I've recognized that I don't feel like I have like creative space anymore, literally like interiorly, but also exteriorly. I'm seeing like, man, like is there a place that I can kind of like open up my heart and just let it stay that way? Or, if I do that, is like, are three children going to come by and kind of just wreck it all kind of thing? Well, funny that I asked that question because also recently I just had this moment of like, you know what? I'm going to overcome all the excuses why I'm not writing music and everything. And I'm going to go to the piano right now and I'm going to sit down and I am going to be creative, darn it. And so I climbed over the tricycles and everything else in the way. And I got to the piano bench where my almost 2-year-old had just been sitting playing. And there was literally a fresh poop smear across the whole bench on which I chose not to sit. And instead I walked away and I said, I'll just be creative some other time in some other way in some other place. And it just got me thinking like, man, like it takes a lot of things coming together to actually have the space, the time, like the feeling, all the vibe, everything else to create, to like open your heart up and to actually get something that's on the inside, on the outside, if that makes sense, something expressed. And so I wanted to just give you a few like sort of practical tips on that. Like we could literally, this should be called like 500 songwriting tips. We're just going to do 5 today to keep it a little short. And so I just want to give you 5 quick tips. Basically, I say quick, we'll see how quick it really is. So the first thing is I just want to say, these all have kind of funny names. The first one's called Say What You Need to Say. This is for you John Mayer fans out there. Great John Mayer song. You should check it out if you haven't heard it. But what do I mean by this? I mean, I think we, as songwriters, have this tendency to self-edit and just be like, no, not that, no, not that. And like before an idea can even come out or be heard or have its space to develop, upon which to make a judgment whether this is a good idea or a not good idea, we have a tendency just to cut and cut and cut and cut until there's like nothing left. And we give ourselves a very small box in which to be creative, like that we allow ourselves to be creative. I just want to say what you need to say instead. This means like allow yourself like the reality of the fickle human heart and experience that you're actually going through, wherein you can write whatever is actually in there, right? And like just write it, get it out. And the chances are you're probably going to write like a bunch of songs that are 2 things. One is honest, and 2 is like not worth sharing or not something to be shared rather with anyone else, in order to get to one that is worth sharing with someone else. So I want to just invite you, number 1, let's stop the self-editing. Like let's say what we need to say, and let's be prolific in that sense. Number 2 is do you want to be my friend? Which most of you are probably like, not really. But this is an important question, just a funny way to say, like, let's be collaborative with our creative genius because it's so deeply attached to something interior, to our heart, to something that's deep and intimate. Maybe we have like this combination of fear that comes from like sharing ourselves too deeply, and then also from any ambition that we have of like this being my thing. We have a tendency to sort of shy away from collaborative stuff sometimes, or collaboration sometimes. I want to invite you to overcome that. Try that out. Like find some friends, find somebody else creative, and just say, hey, like, could we write together sometime? Could we bounce ideas back and forth sometime together? Could we go to a trampoline place and bounce on trampolines sometime together and just be friends and actually like just share creative ideas? That would actually, I've never done that before. That would actually be fun. Number 3, this is for the Office fans out there. The machine knows. Stop yelling at me. What am I talking about? I'm talking about using a little bit of technology to help your songwriting process. And for me, my iPhone is actually like a key part of that because I use the Voice Memos app. I want to invite you to voice memo like everywhere. Like voice memo like when you're in your studio and you just need to like remember the idea that you think you're going to remember but you're never going to remember. Voice memo when you're in the car. Voice memo when you're on a plane. I do that all the time. People think I'm nuts. Voice memo when you're in a shower, if you have a waterproof case on your phone. But this is the other part, is when you make those voice memos, be sure that you have a way to get back to them. What you don't want to happen is this, essentially, wherein every voice memo is just like new recording number 505798, which isn't a real number. The point is, like, make a title that actually makes sense to you, that you're going to remember 4 years from now. Keywords. So try to just think of like yourself 4 years older, 5 years older. What are the keywords that are going to help you remember this moment of inspiration, this melody, this lyric, or whatever it was? Make your titles 20 words long if they have to be, to get all those keywords in there. I just really want to encourage you, like, let's get our titles right so we don't lose like just brilliant ideas that come out of the heart of God and are conveyed to you. Number 4 is the space and time equation, which I don't actually know. I'm not a mathematician, but anyway, it just sounded kind of catchy. Space and time, 2 important things. I shared a story with you about space, right? It's important to have space to be creative. Why? Because when you're writing, you're exploring an interior space. And so you actually need an exterior space in which you feel safe to unfold, and maybe to have time to unfold, to get to the depths, and maybe to leave it there, so that like when you walk away and you're like doing the dishes, like the back of your mind and the back of your heart are still working on this, and you can go right back to it. So for me, like, what does this look like? It means like I will work actually very briefly on a song at the instrument, like relatively speaking. So I might spend like a big chunk of time at first, like 2 hours or something like that, like just trying a lot of things, a lot of ideas. And there's some point where I can feel like, okay, it's locked in now. Like my interior, my mind, my heart is working on this now. And then at that point, like it might be a week where I'm taking notes, I'm taking voice memos, that kind of thing. And I have a space that I can come back to finish. And so a lot of times for a song, for me, it's like there's a big investment of time at the instrument at first, the piano for me most of the time. And then I'm like kind of away from the instrument until the end, when it's like another burst of time there and finishing it out and that kind of thing. So space and time, we have to have both, and we have to do it consistently in order to have the space to unfold and to write something. Number 5, diet and exercise. I would love to talk about food right now, but I'm not going to talk about food. I'm talking about actually creative input, transcendental input, truth, goodness, and beauty input. Like we are what we eat, right? And so like if we're writers, especially if we're writing in a space for praise or for prayer or those kind of things, like let's be mindful of like our inputs, right? So that means sacrament, of course, the Eucharist, the scriptures, these inputs of our faith, of course. Additionally, I would say like, man, like that concert that you're thinking about going to, but you're like, I don't know if I want to pay that much for the ticket. Buy the ticket, buy it and go. And like, let that be an input, right? Like feast on that, so to speak. Like let the creativity that you experience there, the artistry that you experience at the musical, at the concert, at the coffee house, like making time to go and to like have a diet of creativity where you're receiving from others their creative hearts, and that's inputs that like make their way into your hearts and actually help you express what's going on in you. So this is what I think. If you tried each of these, you can do like the light version basically. So like, try a writing thing where you're like, I am not going to edit a single thing. I'm going to say exactly what I think. I might hate it, but I'm going to try it. You could do this. You could go and you could like call whoever your closest friend is that's also a creative and just say, hey, let's set up a co-write. You can do that. You can turn on your phone. You can go through your memos. You can change the titles, all that kind of stuff. These are very easy things to do. Space and time, this is a hard one, but all of us can actually make time if we really value it. And then finally, diet and exercise. Like even if this is going to just the coffee shop or finding some like live music somewhere close to you this weekend, go do it. Give it a shot and see what happens on the back end as you go back to the writing space and try to express yourself. So I'd love to hear from you, hear how it goes. And also I'd love to get your tips too. So just let us know what you think.